Mornings in my apartment are pure chaos. Not the, oh no, I spilled my coffee kind. More like, there's cereal in my shoe and I'm late again kind of chaos. There's cereal on the floor, socks in the fridge, and a 4-year-old dictator named Luca who absolutely refuses, to wear matching shoes. He's currently sprinting through the living room in his superhero cape, which for the record is just a towel I'll probably need later, yelling superhero time at the top of his lungs. And no pants, because apparently pants are optional when you're saving the world. I try to grab him mid-run, nearly trip over a toy truck, and catch him just in time before he collides with the wall. He giggles like it's all part of the plan. And honestly, maybe it is. I used to think I had my life together. Spreadsheets, savings goals, weekend plans. Now I consider it a win if I get through breakfast without stepping on a Lego or burning toast. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Our little home smells like pancakes, coffee, and that faint mix of baby shampoo and crayon that never really goes away. The sunlight leaks through the curtains, spilling gold across the kitchen counter, cluttered with cereal boxes and art supplies. And in the middle of it all, Luca, laughing so hard his dimples show, hair sticking up in every direction, syrup on his chin. He's loud, messy, stubborn, and the best thing that's ever happened to me. Even when I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, somehow he makes the world feel softer. Eventually, after a breakfast battle that involves bribing him with extra syrup, he finally settles. And when his little head finally hits the pillow for his midday nap, superhero cape still wrapped around him, the apartment falls quiet. It's funny how loud silence can feel after that. I stand there for a moment, just breathing. The stillness, the hum of the fridge, the faint tick of the wall clock. And that's when I see it. The bracelet. Old, silver, a little worn, lying on my nightstand like a secret that never left. I don't wear it. I never really did. But it's been there since that night. The only thing I have left from a stranger whose name I never learned, a stranger who somehow felt familiar in a way no one ever has since. Sometimes I catch myself staring at it longer than I mean to, tracing the little scratches on its surface, the way the light glints off the metal, and for a moment, it feels like a memory trying to reach me. Soft, blurry, almost sweet. I tell myself it's just a bracelet. That doesn't mean anything anymore. But deep down, I know that's not true. Because every time I see it, I still wonder about the man who disappeared before I could even ask his name. Flashback, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I would have told you I knew exactly how my life was supposed to go. Steady job, small circle of friends, heartbreak neatly processed and tucked away like an old sweater I never wear. Then, he walked in. It was one of those nights you don't plan. The kind you think will be ordinary until it refuses to be. I'd gone out to forget, to drink too much wine, laugh too loudly, and pretend my chest didn't still ache from someone else's mistakes. I was tired of thinking, tired of feeling, just craving something, anything, to shake me awake. He was leaning against the bar, tall, impossibly composed in a casual way that made everyone else seem sloppy by comparison. Blonde hair catching the dim light, a grin that didn't just flirt, it claimed, and eyes that felt like they already knew me. When our gazes met, the world narrowed to just that moment and something sparked. The kind of spark that makes your stomach twist and your heart lurch simultaneously. We talked. Too much and too little all at once. Conversation that danced around every real feeling but never touched them fully, like teasing fingertips along the skin of your mind. He laughed, the kind of laugh that's contagious and dangerous at the same time. I laughed too, spilling my wine down my shirt and somehow not caring at all. And then, sparks. Electric, messy, wild. The kind that makes you forget rules, forget time, forget yourself. By the end of the night, one thing was painfully clear. Neither of us wanted it to end. But there were rules, invisible but firm. No names, no numbers, no promises. Let's not make this complicated. he said softly, voice low, brushing my ear with a warmth that lingered. I nodded, pretending I could follow the rules. We didn't. By the time streetlights flickered their last golden glow, we were tangled in sheets, hearts pounding, skin against skin. Every touch, every whisper, every laugh. A tiny rebellion against the ordinary life waiting outside that door. The night stretched endlessly, and for once, I felt completely alive. Morning came too soon. I woke first, hair a wild halo, mouth dry, heart still racing from last night's fire. The room smelled faintly of him. Cologne, warmth, laughter still hovering like smoke in the corners. I reached over, half expecting to find him there, only to meet nothing. Cold sheets. Empty pillow. He was gone. No note, no goodbye. Nothing. I sat there for what felt like hours, tracing the sheets with my fingers, memorizing the curve of his smile and the warmth of his touch, remembering that night that had felt endless, perfect, and terrifying all at once. Months later, I found out I was pregnant. Alone. The tiny life growing inside me. Proof that night had meant more than I ever admitted to myself. And yet, I never found him again. No number. No social media. Nothing but a single silver bracelet he'd left behind. Lying there on my nightstand like a fragment of a dream I couldn't reach. A piece of him I couldn't forget, no matter how hard I tried. I told myself I'd moved on. I told myself I'd figure it out. But deep down, every time I touched that bracelet, I felt the pull of that night. The laughter, the heat, the connection I hadn't felt with anyone else before or since. I never recognized his face later, either. The wine and whiskey haze had blurred the finer details, and the soft golden lighting of that night had hidden the small imperfections that make a person memorable. We remembered the feeling, not the face. And now, when I look at him, there's just that flicker of familiarity, a spark I can't quite place. And that's how it all began. Flashback ends. A few days later. I'm juggling 3 things at once, answering a work call, keeping Luca from climbing a tree that looks suspiciously like it's plotting to crush him, and trying not to spill my coffee. It's going poorly. "Daddy, look!" Luca yells, pointing at a squirrel like it's the most important discovery in human history. I glance down at my phone. A client is asking why a report isn't finished yet, and I take my eyes off him for literally 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I hear a sudden whoosh of movement, then a scream. "Luca? Huh?" He's bolted, full on, running at top speed like he just remembered he's auditioning for the Olympics. Straight across the park path, straight toward a sleek black car that screeches to a stop as if the universe itself pulled the brakes. And then, everything slows. A man jumps out, tall, broad, exuding confidence like he owns every inch of the park. Blonde hair catches the sunlight just right, and those piercing blue eyes lock on Luca like a predator. A very attractive predator. Before I can even process it, he scoops Luca into his arms like he's done it 1,000 times. "Hey, little man, you okay?" the man says, his voice calm, warm, and impossibly smooth. I'm frozen mid-stride, heart hammering, phone still in hand. He's gorgeous. Too gorgeous. Crisp suit, perfect posture, and a grin that's just the right mix of amused and dangerous. I feel a little dizzy, but I push it aside. This is not the time to get distracted. My son's safety comes first. I'm so sorry, I stammer, words tumbling out breathless, half panicked, half caught. But before I can finish, Luca turns his little head and grins like he's been planning this exact moment for weeks. "You should date my dad." I blink, hard. Trevor, because yes, I just decided to know his name immediately, blinks too. I turn red enough to heat the park bench. Luca laughs, delighted with the chaos he's created. And then, the magic happens. Trevor laughs, a real laugh, the kind that makes you feel like you've been holding your breath for years without realizing it. It's not polite. It's not forced. It's the kind of laugh that says, "I see you. and I like you. For the first time in years, someone laughs like he's been waiting all day. I take a step forward, half to retrieve Luca, half to apologize, and find myself completely unable to tear my eyes away from this man. The way the sunlight hits his hair, the way he holds Luca like he's done it 1,000 times, but still makes it look effortless. The warmth in his eyes, and in that instant, chaos, mischief, everything else fading away. I know. This man isn't just a stranger who saved my kid. Something about him already feels unforgettable. A week later. Later that week, I find Luca sitting cross-legged on the grass, animatedly waving his arms around like he's directing a symphony, while a tall, blonde stranger lounges next to him like it's the most natural thing in the world. Trevor has brought 2 juice boxes. One for Luca, he says, holding one out to my kid with a grin. And one for, well, someone who seems like they could use a little courage too, he adds, handing me the other. I take it, fumbling slightly, feeling the heat creep up my neck. He smiles at me like he's letting me in on some private joke, and I almost drop the cup. Luca launches into an epic story involving spaceships, talking dogs, and a superhero dad who makes pancakes that are so good they should be illegal. Trevor listens with rapt attention, eyes wide at the right moments, nodding solemnly at the parts Luca insists are very serious. I catch him glancing at me a few times, that teasing grin tugging at his lips, and my chest does something stupid and fluttery that I'd like to pretend doesn't happen. "You're a brave hero, aren't you?" Trevor asks Luca, leaning in, voice soft but amused. Luca beams, puffing out his tiny chest. "Braver than Daddy," Trevor chuckles. Then, a glance at me. "Looks like you have a little sidekick who knows how to pick his friends," he says lightly. I try to play it cool, but my blush is probably visible from space. I'm laughing, heart hammering, trying not to make a complete fool of myself. And yet I can't deny it. This is fun, electric, messy, dangerous, and I'm hooked. The next day. The very next morning, I'm in line at the coffee shop juggling Luca on one hip, Luca's essentials bag swinging off my shoulder, and a laptop bag bumping into every passerby. I'm just about to start a conversation with the barista about an overcomplicated oat milk order when I hear a familiar, smooth voice behind me. "Good morning." I turn. Of course, it's Trevor. Of course. I try to act casual. "Fancy seeing you here," I say, trying not to sound like my heart just leapt into my throat. Luca waves like he's greeting a celebrity, grinning from ear to ear. Trevor laughs. That laugh, rich, effortless, exactly the kind you'd hope would follow you everywhere. And it makes my knees weak. "I live dangerously close to caffeine," he says, glancing at my latte, which I've now realized is in danger of tipping over. He buys me the coffee, and I pretend it's not the best thing anyone has done for me all week. We walk out into the crisp morning, Luca bouncing beside us like a little tornado, and the park is coming to life with joggers, dogs, and the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. A few weeks later. Saturday morning, the park is buzzing, dogs barking, kids screaming, parents juggling chaos, but somehow Luca is determined to turn it into his personal superhero training ground. "Daddy, you're first! Protect the city!" he yells, dragging me along while Trevor walks beside us, perfectly calm and casually amused. Trevor crouches low to inspect the sandbox. "Danger spotted," he announces gravely. "We might need reinforcements." Luca nods seriously. "Bring your sword." Trevor bends, picks up a stick like it's an ancient weapon, and hands it to Luca. "Here. Handle this carefully," I watch, heart swelling, as Trevor interacts with my son like he's been doing it his whole life, playful, patient, completely natural. At one point, Luca throws a leaf at me, Trevor shields me dramatically, and I laugh so hard I almost trip over my own feet. After running through an obstacle course of swings, slides, and pretend villains, we collapse onto the grass, sweating, muddy, and grinning like idiots. Trevor leans back on his hands, glancing at me. Your kid is kind of amazing. Yeah, I agree softly, brushing grass off my shirt. He's trouble, but worth it. And then there's that fleeting moment. Our hands brush as he helps me up, fingers lingering longer than necessary. Neither of us says anything, but the tension hums in the air like static, warm, and electric. A few days later, Trevor invites us to his apartment for a Saturday movie night. Luca insists on building a blanket fort in the living room, dragging pillows, sheets, and every stuffed animal he owns into the chaos. Trevor doesn't flinch. He helps, laughing, draping a sheet over the couch with exaggerated care, making Luca giggle until he snorts. We end up piled in the fort, popcorn flying everywhere. Luca claims the center, of course, leaving me and Trevor squeezed together on either side. Trevor hands me a mug of hot chocolate. Our fingers brush. A jolt of warmth shoots straight through me, and I hope Luca doesn't notice the heat creeping into my face. Halfway through the movie, Luca curls up against Trevor and falls asleep, soft snores punctuating the soundtrack. Trevor looks at him, then at me, and murmurs softly, "Your kid's amazing. A little too amazing. Must get exhausting." I smile, leaning closer. "Yeah, he does. But he's mine," Trevor grins, that mischievous, heart-stopping grin. "Lucky you." And lucky me, I choke on my chocolate. He laughs, rich and warm, and I swear my heart melts a little more with every note. By the time Luca shifts in, his sleep, nudging Trevor's shoulder slightly, I realize I'm already caught. Completely. And I don't want to get out. Over a week later. It's Tuesday, and the sky has turned that heavy gray kind of color that promises rain. Luca is bouncing around the living room in rain boots that are 2 sizes too big, splashing in every puddle he can find. I'm wrangling his backpack, diaper bag, and a coffee that's already lukewarm. Then, a familiar voice cuts through the drizzle outside. "Thought you might need this." I step onto the porch and see Trevor standing there, umbrella in hand, grin wide, hair slightly damp but somehow perfect. My chest skips a beat. Thanks," I manage, trying to act casual while my knees feel like jelly. We walk together under the umbrella, Luca skipping ahead like a tiny whirlwind of joy. The rain taps on the umbrella like a quiet drum beat, creating a little cocoon of warmth around us. Trevor's presence feels like sunlight breaking through the clouds, steady, comforting, and impossible to ignore. He nudges me gently as we walk. "I like spending time with you." "And him, of course." I glance at him, heart hammering. "Yeah, me too." Simple words. Light. But the weight behind them makes my stomach twist. Luca runs ahead, splashing in a giant puddle and laughing like it's the best thing he's ever done. Trevor laughs too, a full, rich laugh that makes me feel like my chest is going to burst. He shakes droplets of rain from his umbrella, but I notice his hand brushes mine, lingering a little longer than necessary. "Your kid's really something," he says, softer now, his voice just above the rain. "I know," I reply, smirking despite myself. "He's a little chaos machine." Trevor laughs again. "Chaos machine? I like that. Fits him perfectly. And you too, by the way." My cheeks heat up, and I can't hide the small smile creeping onto my face. For a moment, we walk in silence, the rain falling around us, Luca's laughter echoing in the distance. I realize something startling, terrifying, wonderful, and completely unavoidable. I'm falling, hard, for Trevor, for this messy, chaotic little family he's somehow becoming a part of. And Luca, of course, beams proudly from a few steps ahead, completely aware of the victory he's orchestrated. "See, Daddy? I told you he likes you?" Trevor smirks at me, eyebrow raised. "Your kid really is a mastermind." I laugh, heart full, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself imagine that maybe, just maybe, this could be my happily ever after. 3 weeks later. I should have seen it coming. I really should have. It's a crisp Saturday morning. Luca is darting around the playground like a tornado with tiny sneakers, and I'm trying to keep him from climbing the big oak tree while answering a work email. Trevor strolls over, looking off. Not his usual effortless, charming self. He clears his throat and my stomach drops. Sean, there's something you need to know. My heart slows, not in a good way. Turns out Trevor's engaged. Elena, the kind of woman who glides into a room and makes everything else feel out of place. Perfect hair, perfect heels, perfect smile, and that soft, condescending, sweetheart tone that slices right through you without a word. I met her a few days later, at a brunch he's forced me to attend. She sizes up Luca's mismatched shoes like he just committed a crime against humanity. How quaint, she says, voice icy, eyes flicking to me as if I'm a temporary inconvenience, a nuisance easily swept aside. Trevor doesn't defend me. He doesn't snap at her, doesn't smooth things over. He just smiles, that perfect, polite, uncomfortable smile, and my chest aches watching him. Luca, oblivious, happily shovels pancakes in his mouth. I try to focus on him, to block out the tension, but it's everywhere. Elena's smirk, the way she tilts her head like she owns the world. Trevor's subtle discomfort, the small sigh when she critiques Luca's shoes. That night, I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, fighting with my own head. I tell myself to stop hoping. I tell myself he belongs to someone else. Someone polished, perfect, untouchable. People like Trevor don't belong in my messy, chaotic, imperfect little life. But I can't stop thinking about him. I can't stop remembering how he looks at Luca like he belongs in our little world, like he wants to, and it kills me. Trevor refuses to let distance settle. A few nights later, a message buzzes on my phone. Dinner. Just us. And Luca. Consider it a thank you for keeping my week interesting. I hesitate. Because he's engaged. Because Elena exists. Because every rational part of me screams to say no. But I don't. I say yes. His apartment is sleek, glimmering, the kind of place I never imagined myself in. I feel out of place instantly. The polished silverware, the soft candlelight, the way he moves around like he owns everything. But Luca is fearless. He runs through the living room like it's his kingdom, draping himself over Trevor like they've been partners in crime for years. Dinner starts awkwardly. I try to keep the conversation casual. Trevor smiles too much, laughs too softly, and every glance he throws my way makes my chest tighten. The tension is thick, suffocating, and dangerous. Luca, oblivious to the adult emotions swirling around him, dives into his dessert until he falls asleep mid-bite, head leaning against Trevor's shoulder. And suddenly, the apartment is quiet, except for the soft ticking of the clock and the hum of something unspoken between us. Trevor looks at me over the candlelight. His eyes are soft, intense, and impossibly close. You've done a good job, you know. He's amazing, he murmurs. I swallow hard, heart clenching. He's my whole world, I whisper. We hold each other's gaze for a long, dangerous moment. No words, just the tension of what we can't have, of what's forbidden, of the messy, chaotic pull between us. I know then, it's no longer just about chemistry or sparks. It's about longing, desire, a love that's illegal, impossible, and irresistible, and it terrifies me. Over a month later, it started in whispers, small things that didn't make sense, tiny threads pulling at the edges of my memory. Trevor muttered a phrase while Luca zipped ahead in the park. Careful there, little lightning bolt. I froze mid-step. My stomach tightened. That voice, that tone, I'd heard it before. Somewhere familiar, somewhere mine, but I couldn't place it. Then there was the scar, a faint line on his wrist, partially hidden by his watch. I remembered a scar like that, the same shape, the same soft curve, burned lightly in my memory. My fingers itched to reach out, to trace it, and see if it matched the one I'd once memorized. But I didn't. And the humming. God, the humming. I hadn't thought about it in years. the lazy, teasing melody that had floated between us that night. He hummed while he washed the dishes at my apartment, quiet enough to almost be background noise, but I froze, my breath catching in my throat. That tune, the one we'd laughed to, whispered to, shared without words. I brushed it off. I told myself it was just a coincidence, just familiarity. But every time he smiled at Luca, every time he reached for my coffee and his fingers brushed mine, my chest flared, my stomach twisted, and a tiny voice whispered, "Why does he feel so familiar? Why can't I remember?" Trevor felt it too. I saw it in his eyes, those rare flickers that slipped through his calm, confident mask. A flash of recognition, a memory brushing the surface, quickly drowned by the chaos of the day. And every time he tried to bring it up, something happened. Luca would shout, my phone would ring, someone would trip over a toy. The world was conspiring to keep the truth locked away. But deep down, I knew. I knew there was a reason he pulled at me so fiercely, made my heart race, and left me breathless with every small, mundane gesture. 2 weeks later. Of course, perfect timing never fails, Elena found out. She discovered the growing closeness between Trevor, Luca, and me at the preschool's charity fundraiser. I was setting up the snack table when I felt the temperature in the room shift. She appeared behind me, sharp heels clicking, hands on her hips, eyes slicing through me like knives. You really think a CEO is going to choose you over me? Over his future? Her words weren't just words. They were weapons. I felt them in my chest, a sudden tightening that made my ribs ache. I swallowed. I wanted to yell, to defend myself, to tell her exactly where to shove her perfection. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, met her icy gaze, and said quietly, deliberately, I don't need him to. I just want my son to be happy. For a second, she looked stunned, like my audacity hadn't occurred to her. Then she smiled thinly, a predator sizing up prey, but said nothing more. I exhaled, heart pounding, and felt Trevor freeze a few steps away at the raffle table. He turned slowly, and our eyes met. The look he gave me was everything I hadn't dared to hope for. Shock, pain, protectiveness, longing, and maybe even guilt. I could see him thinking, I should have told you. I should have been there for this. But he didn't speak. Instead, he watched, silently furious, the muscles in his jaw tightening. His blue eyes, normally warm and teasing, were now stormy, intense, and completely unreadable. And in that moment, I realized he felt it too. The pull, the connection, the danger of wanting me when the world insisted we shouldn't. I felt my own chest ache, realizing just how much I wanted him, how much I had always wanted him, and how impossibly complicated it all had become. And Luca, my tiny, brilliant chaos machine, had unknowingly orchestrated this moment, bringing us to the edge of something neither of us could control. Everything was about to get messy. Everything was about to get real. A week later, it started with silence. That eerie, too quiet kind of silence that every parent knows means trouble. Luca, I called from the kitchen, balancing my coffee and half-burnt toast. No answer, just the faint sound of drawers opening somewhere down the hall. I followed it, and there he was, my 4-year-old tornado, sitting on the floor of my bedroom, surrounded by old things I hadn't touched in years. Luca, buddy, what are you doing? He turned to me, all wide blue eyes and a grin that could melt the moon. I found it, he said proudly, holding up a little silver bracelet between his tiny fingers. A surprise gift for Trevor? My heart stopped. The bracelet, the one I'd kept hidden in the back of the drawer, the one I could never quite throw away, no matter how much I told myself to move on. Before I could say anything, he'd already wrapped it up in a tiny box, the kind he used for his preschool art gifts, and scribbled a sticky note on top, for Trevor, from me and Daddy. I didn't have the heart to take it away. He looked so proud, so sure. So I just knelt down, brushed a hand through his messy hair, and whispered, "Okay, buddy, let's hope he likes it." When Trevor showed up that evening, I wasn't ready. I don't think I ever could have been. He smiled as he walked in, jacket over his arm, eyes crinkling when he saw Luca. And then Luca shoved the little box into his hands. "Surprise!" he chirped. Trevor chuckled, ruffling his hair. "What's this?" "Open it!" Luca said, bouncing in excitement. He opened it, and the world just stopped. The air in the room shifted. His laughter faded, replaced by a stillness so heavy I could feel it press against my chest. He stared down at the bracelet like he'd seen a ghost. His fingers trembled as he lifted it out of the box, the silver catching the evening light. For a long time, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then his voice, quiet, raw. "Where did you get this?" I froze. It was mine. I found it years ago. Someone left it behind." He looked up at me, and suddenly his expression wasn't calm anymore. It was chaos, shock, disbelief, something like grief. He swallowed, voice breaking. "It was you." And in that moment, everything, the humming, the phrases, the scar, snapped into place. The room tilted. My knees almost gave out. I laughed once, bitter and breathless, tears burning my eyes. "You left. You just left." He looked stricken. I did, but only because I had to. I left my number behind, I thought. I didn't even know your name. I waited for your call, tried to find you, but my voice cracked. And I thought you left. Later, I found out I was pregnant, alone. You were just gone. Silence. Heavy, electric, unbearable. Then Luca tugged his sleeve. "You okay, Trevor?" Trevor's gaze dropped to him. His breath hitched, the same blue eyes. His eyes. He knelt down slowly, like the ground itself might crumble beneath him. "Mine?" he whispered, looking up at me. I nodded, tears spilling before I could stop them. Trevor's face broke, not just into a smile, but into something softer, realer. He cupped Luca's cheek with trembling hands, tears bright in his eyes. "Hey, buddy," he said, voice thick. "Guess we've been friends for a while now, huh?" Luca giggled, completely oblivious to the storm in the room. "I told you you're perfect for us." Trevor laughed, broken, disbelieving, beautiful. And for the first time in 4 years, I let myself believe in something impossible. Maybe fate doesn't forget, maybe it just waits. The next day, the chaos hit like a storm. Elena swept into the boardroom, heels clicking like a metronome of menace, eyes cold as steel. "You actually think a single dad with a kid can compete with me? With everything I've planned for him?" She leaned in, voice dripping with condescension. "Do you really believe he'd throw away his reputation, his family, his future, for you?" Trevor's family followed suit. Disbelief, lectures, attempts to guilt him into doing the right thing. The press had caught wind of it, of course. Scandal, broken engagement, office gossip, texts blowing up with judgment and advice. But Trevor stood like a lighthouse in the middle of it all. "I've built my company on every decision they made for me," he said, jaw tight, eyes blazing. "This time, I'm choosing my own. Choosing us." And then, without another word, he walked out, past the chaos, past expectations, past the judgment, straight into me. I barely had time to catch my breath before he was there, arms around me, eyes desperate and tender. "I've waited so long," he whispered, voice low and broken, fingers threading through my hair. "I didn't realize it until I almost lost you. I can't. I won't." My chest tightened. My tears came before I could stop them. You have no idea," I choked out. "I never stopped. Luca, he's yours." His blue eyes went impossibly wide. Shock, awe, something aching, soft, raw, all at once. He pressed a hand to my cheek, tears glistening. "Our son, you trusted me with him." I nodded, holding back a sob. "I didn't know if I'd ever see you again. But now you're here." Trevor cupped my face, kissing me, messy, desperate, messy again. Every suppressed longing, every stolen moment, every lost year spilling into that kiss. I'm never leaving, he vowed between breaths. And then, something wild, impulsive, perfectly us. He reached into his pocket, fumbled with a small velvet box, and opened it before I could protest. "Sean," he said, voice trembling, "I know we're a mess. I know we're complicated. But I want this. I want you. I want Luca. I want our life. No apologies, no waiting. Will you marry me?" I stared at him, stunned, shaking, laughing through tears. "Yes," I whispered, breathless. "Yes, 1,000,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on my finger, laughing through tears himself, and kissed me again. Tender, urgent, perfect. A few months later. Months later, the park is alive with chaos and sunshine. Luca is tugging at Trevor's hand, showing him how to fly a kite. Trevor is laughing so hard he nearly lets go of the spool, and the kite dives sideways, tangling in the branches of a tree. I can't stop laughing either, heart full, chest aching from the happiness. Trevor spins, catches Luca mid-fall, and holds him up like he's a trophy. "You're impossible," he says, mock scolding, but his grin says otherwise. I sit back on the blanket, sipping coffee, watching them. Trevor's arm slides around me, warm, steady, grounding. "You know," he murmurs, resting his chin on my shoulder, "your kid's a terrible wingman." I grin, brushing my fingers through Luca's hair as he shouts instructions to Trevor. "Worked, didn't it?" Luca spins around, eyes sparkling, arms spread wide. "Told you you two should be together." Trevor laughs, tugging me into a loose embrace. "Yeah, your kid knows best." Always I press my forehead to his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. The same rhythm I'd remembered from that night, long ago, and that had carried us through every laugh, every tear, every messy, chaotic moment. The kite finally catches the wind, soaring high, tangled strings and all, and Luca cheers like he's conquered the world. Trevor scoops him up, swinging him around, and I watch, smiling until my cheeks hurt. This is our home, messy, loud, chaotic, full of love, full of laughter, full of us. And finally, the family that fate had built from a single spark, a lost night, and one little silver bracelet feels complete. We laugh together, all three of us, under the soft glow of the setting sun. Perfectly imperfect. Unstoppably ours. The end. Would you forgive someone who disappeared from your life if fate brought them back as the love of your life? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.